Before we begin, I just want to thank you for the support. We're close to 4,000 subscribers and every one of you keeps this channel alive. If these stories speak to you, please consider subscribing. And let me know your thoughts in the comments, it truly means a lot. When she told me to stop snooping, she had no idea I already knew her secret, and that I'd been planning my move for weeks. I remember the way she said it, calm, almost amused, like I was the problem, like my instincts were nothing but insecurity. But the truth was already sitting in my pocket, colder and heavier than anything she could imagine. I didn't confront her right then. I didn't need to. The real shock wouldn't come until later, when everything she tried to bury finally surfaced. And even now, thinking back, I realized that was the moment I understood I hadn't truly known the woman I married. That realization changed me long before she ever faced the consequences, hers. I met my wife 8 years ago, back when everything about her felt warm, playful, and effortlessly genuine. She had this way of leaning in when she laughed, like she trusted the world would catch her, and for a long time I made it my mission to be that safety. Our relationship unfolded naturally. No games, no doubts, just two people building something that felt solid. I poured myself into that future. I helped her through a career change, picked up extra hours when she went back to school, and later when we bought our first home, it felt like we were finally standing in the life we had talked about during all those late-night conversations. Before, it was easy to believe in us. We dreamed together, planned trips, argued only about trivial things like who burned dinner. But somewhere along the line, the warmth faded. She pulled back, bit by bit, until our shared future started to feel like something only I was still carrying. The distance didn't arrive suddenly. It crept in, subtle but undeniable. And even before I knew the truth, I could feel something precious slipping through my fingers. Long before she ever admitted what she'd done. It started with small things, the kind you almost talk yourself out of noticing. She began guarding her phone like it held state secrets, tilting the screen away from me, changing her lock screen without a word. Her work hours suddenly doubled, though her company hadn't mentioned any major projects. Nights that used to end with her curled against me turned into evenings where she sat at the far end of the couch, scrolling, distant, unreachable. I kept telling myself not to be that guy, not to jump to conclusions or assume the worst. But every time I asked a question, "How was your day? Why so late? Who keeps messaging you?" her defensiveness snapped back sharper than the last time. She acted like curiosity was an accusation, like concern was some sort of crime. What I didn't know then was that every red flag was pointing straight at the secret she'd been hiding for months. And as the gap between us widened, I shifted too. I stopped feeling confused and started feeling alert, sensing a truth I could no longer ignore. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, when a meeting I'd been preparing for all week was suddenly canceled. I drove home without thinking much of it, expecting nothing more than a quiet house. Instead, I walked in and saw her purse sitting open on the table, her phone glowing on top of it. For the first time in months, the screen wasn't locked and a notification slid across the top. A name I didn't recognize, followed by a message so intimate it felt like a punch to the gut. My heart sank, but on the outside I didn't move. I picked up the phone and scrolled just far enough to see everything I needed: hotel reservations, flirty messages, the kind of coded language people use when they know they're doing something wrong. That's when the door opened. She stepped inside, saw me holding her phone, and instantly launched into accusations. Controlling. Paranoid. Invading her privacy. She pretended the evidence wasn't sitting inches from her face. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. My silence unsettled her more than anything I could have said. When she paused, I looked at her and said, "If I'm snooping, it's because something is worth finding." Instead of reacting the way she expected, I stepped back and let the numbness settle into something colder, something focused. I spent the next few days collecting everything she thought I would never find. Screenshots of messages she tried to delete, bank statements showing quiet withdrawals for dinners I was never invited to, rideshare logs that didn't match a single story she'd told me. Piece by piece, the picture sharpened, and the man in it became impossible to ignore. A coworker, someone she'd mentioned only once, someone who, like me, wore a wedding ring. When I confirmed he was married, I sent his wife a simple message: "You deserve to know the truth." No explanations. No apologies. Just the facts she needed. After that, I started preparing my exit. I met with an attorney, moved our joint finances into legally protected accounts, and arranged to stay with a friend until everything unfolded. I made sure every step was quiet, controlled, impossible to sabotage. She thought telling me to stop snooping would shut me down, but what I did next changed everything. And as each detail fell into place, I realized I wasn't preparing for a confrontation. I was preparing for my freedom. On the day everything finally came together, I asked her to sit down at the table. No raised voice, no accusations, just a man who'd already made peace with the truth. I slid a folder in front of her and watched the confidence drain from her face before she even opened it. Inside was every screenshot, every receipt, every late-night charge and message she thought she'd hidden, arranged in the order she'd lived the lies. Her bravado evaporated instantly. The woman who once mocked my questions now trembled, stammering excuses that collapsed into bargaining, then tears. I waited for her to finish before delivering the final blow. I told her I had already informed the other man's wife. That was when her face truly fell, when she understood the consequences were no longer theoretical. I explained I was moving out, filing for divorce, and that her attempt to gaslight me had done more damage than the affair itself. Before, she laughed at my concerns, treated me like a fool. Now she begged a man who was already emotionally gone, reaching for something she destroyed long before this moment ever arrived. Weeks later, I'm living in a quiet, uncluttered apartment that finally feels like mine. I sleep through the night again without tension coiled in my chest. I eat better, think clearer, and move through my days without the weight of wondering who's lying to me. Her messages still trickle in, apologies, explanations, soft memories meant to pull me back, but I don't respond anymore. Betrayal isn't just about cheating. It's about disrespect, deception, and the slow erosion of your sanity when someone swears you're imagining what's right in front of you. Leaving gave me back the parts of myself she tried to blur. She told me to stop snooping. I did. And that's when I started seeing the truth clearly for once.